Tomas Sandell, you're the founder of the European Coalition for Israel. You had an important meeting last week in Geneva concerning anti-Semitism. Tell us about it.
Yes, Chris, this was the first emergency summit on global anti-Semitism for faith leaders and diplomats, and I would in particular emphasize the role of faith leaders. And the reason we decided to host this meeting is that we think that it has been awfully quiet from faith leaders, from Christian pastors after October 7. And we thought it was important that there would be a clear trumpet call in Geneva, which of course is the headquarters of the United Nations in Europe, World Council of Churches and many other international organizations, that there will be clear statements from respected Christian leaders, I should say, as to why believers need to stand with Israel at this point.
How have you seen anti-Semitism rise since October 7th globally?
Yeah, well, the thing is that it was bad even before October 7, but what we see now is really unprecedented during my lifetime, and I'm not a young young teenager anymore. So we're talking the last 60 years, and I think what we see are on two levels. One, of course, is the very blatant imported anti-Semitism to Europe, those on the extreme right, but not so much those on the extreme right, which we usually associate with anti-Semitism, but really the sophisticated, educated class, students at the elite universities, those who will be governing our countries in 10 to 15 years, those who will be the new leaders of Meta and Google and all these companies that are so influential in today's world. And this, if anything, should be a matter of concern, not the fact that there are those in the fringes that have always been there, has always been obsessed with the Jews, but now this is going mainstream, and that should be a matter of real concern.
Since October 7th and likely before, how would you describe this battle for truth, for information and disinformation and misinformation?
Yes, of course. I mean, relating to a meeting we had just yesterday with Colonel Richard Kemp in the European Parliament in Brussels, he made it clear again to say that IDF cannot be defeated by Hamas terrorists, but Hamas knows that by engaging them in a full-scale war, it's not Hamas that will ever be condemned or scrutinized by international institutions, but the other way around, it is Israel. And by starting this conversation on, or even voicing the accusations of genocide and apartheid and this and that, Israel has, in a way, lost the information war. Because we know the news cycle is very short. People don't remember what was the verdict from the International Court of Justice just a few days ago. What they remember is that media gave a lot of attention to the accusation and seemed to substantiate them, to imply that Israel was indeed committing genocide. And this, of course, will have ramifications, already does, in the big media rooms, in popular culture. There are now demands that Israel would not be able to compete in the Eurovision Song Festival. And we will see this from many different corners. And that's why it's so important that we as Christians, as faith leaders, stand firm and learn from history not to give up on our Jewish friends.
How can Christians get engaged, and how can they be praying at this time, Thomas?
Yes, prayer, of course, is essential. This is a war on many levels. There is not only the military conflict, the diplomatic conflict and the information war. It is, of course, a war in the heavenlies as well. And as believers, we should know that these are the weapons that we have been given and that we should use for such a time as this, to really pray for the truth to prevail, pray for Israel to stand firm, but also to make it very clear that we as believers, we stand on the side of Israel. And that's why it was so encouraging to have these faith leaders gathered inside the United Nations in Geneva to clearly express their support for the Jewish people at this time. And I'm thinking in particular of the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Lord Carey, who was so strong in saying that if we don't stand with Israel at this time, we will have failed our faith and democracy. We need more courageous people like him with that stature, but also with the global reach to speak out at this time.
Yeah. How can people, well, first of all, final thoughts, Thomas, and how can people learn more about European Coalition for Israel?
Well, we are obviously on the web, ec4i.org, or people Google nowadays European Coalition for Israel. We're also on social media, and this is really. There was a time when people thought that social media was just like a gimmick or something for young people, but this is really where the battle for truth is being fought today, and we need your likes, we need your engagement there, and your support in so many ways. So thank you for asking the question, Chris.
Thank you, Tomas Sandell, for European Coalition for Israel.